So in the prompt, it mentioned that the horse facility is used for lessons, both therapeutic and regular lessons. And we came up with a few ideas that we think would make the facility more suitable for both. One of our first ideas has to do with parking. There's no specific big parking lot at this facility. If you're at the horse farm, many times you have to park down the driveway, and it's just not easy for there to be a lot of people there at once for lessons like there usually is. So we were thinking that we could incorporate a parking lot where the Western Ring is now and moving the Western Ring to where one of the bigger pastures is on the right, just cutting off some of that pasture and adding the ring there. And then converting the Western Ring as it is into a parking lot so that you have more space. We were also thinking about making more room, driveway room for trailers to come in and easily turn around and go out instead of having to back up or not having enough space in the driveway. We also thought that even though it's expensive, it would be of the best interest to make both of the arenas covered arenas, just so this way lessons aren't getting rained out or the arenas aren't too wet and soggy for lessons. We also wanted to consider the therapeutic riding lessons. There's not any mounting hoist at the horse farm, so people in wheelchairs need that mounting hoist to get up onto the horse. And so we thought we could incorporate some of those, a few more wheelchair accessibility things around the facility, like restrooms, more ramps. Sometimes it's hard to go along those gravel roads in wheelchairs, so maybe some pavement there.
After analyzing the area at the Equine facility programmed for boarding, we decided that there aren't too many things that we would change. The driveway with a roundabout, as mentioned earlier, would assist in easier loading and unloading of current and future horses boarded at this facility. As for the boarding barn itself, we would encourage plenty of tie stalls to be installed and utilized by boarders. We also would like to add a feed barn for the boarders. This way, if there are patrons that have a part board contract, then there's a place separate from the facility's private feed for boarders to store their own feed. Finally, we had recommended that the current hunts arena be repurposed for boarders only. This area will be better accessible for their use and more convenient. In response, we would like to cut back part of the pasture to the right of the storage shed and add another arena. Canoe training is an important area of programming for this facility, so we really want to provide those trainers with their own individual paddocks to work in, give them some more room and space and ability to work with the horses, as well as stalls as well for them, just for them. In the case that there are multiple trainers using these facility at the same time, we would like to have different aisles set aside for each trainer, so that like if there's 2 to 3 trainers, that there's enough aisles so they can have their own aisle that they're working on, for a little more privacy. We would also like to plant trees around the individual paddocks that are currently between the main barn and the lower arena, so that there's less distractions if people are less distractions for the horses in those paddocks. Also creates a little bit of a sound barrier as well, especially if we're turning that lower arena into a parking space. It will help the horses maybe not be quite so stressed in case that area is being used for things like quarantine, as well. And then we would like to move the round pins that are currently around the lower arena over to what is now the new arena for the boarders. Again, to hopefully allow for less distractions since the road is right there where the current round pins are at.
So to better the intended use of breeding at the farm, we would make the following changes. We would move the foaling barn away from the main barn to seclude the mares and foals and provide a more quiet and private area. And we would move that foaling barn to the bottom of the farm and clear out those trees that are there. We would also add a couple of smaller pastures to the bottom of the farm near the foaling barn for turning out mare foal pairs, and that would leave the bigger pastures for the other horses. We would expand the old foaling barn into more offices, potentially classrooms, a lounge, and increase the size of the tack room. We would also make a circular driveway for easy trailer access made of material that's friendly to unshod horses, so maybe like dirt. And we would isolate the breeding shed from the main barn by making it a separate building. It can be kept in the same place, I think, but it should be a separate building and it should be maybe like surrounded by trees to block the noise. Um, and this will provide more privacy for stallions when you're collecting them.
Going forward into the pasture design, we wanted to look at possibly moving the shelters. I know some of them are already pushed back up into for the pastures, but possibly push them maybe more diagonally across from the watering troughs to encourage movement across the pasture, and trying to decrease those areas that get worn down. We also thought about maybe where the pastures begin, where the gates are at, making those more linear. They're kind of all at really odd angles, and that might be because of the topography currently, but maybe looking at grading it in a way that those could be more linear for waterline purposes. So it's like a more cost efficient way to do the waterline. Also, reducing all the tight corners. So I know there's a couple of very sharp corners on the pastures, especially to the left of the facility. So rounding those out or maybe making them a different angle. We would also like to suggest the draining of the ponds. This is a little bit more of a costly addition to do, but in the long run, if we were to drain it and turn them into retention ponds, it could provide the possibility if there is runoff that gets into that, we would be contaminating that water source. And it could be something where it drains into a natural sewer system instead of it getting into the watershed and contaminating that and keeping us from any liability or any lawsuits in that condition. These are solutions, both additions and subtractions, that we are offering in response to our analysis of the Equine facility. Thank you.